Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my new video where I am really excited. We're doing another masterclass video. We are going to be covering the W this time. I've already covered the Q, so make sure to check that out. There's going to be a playlist that is going to be every single ability that is going to be everything that you need to know about that ability in particular. We are going to be going video by video. We are going to be doing one on passive. I've already done one on Q. Today's on W. We're going to be doing another one on E, and obviously we're going to be doing a really big one on R. So if you want to share your own tips down below, if you have any comments, you have any critiques, you have any questions, I try to be as interactive as possible. I also love video suggestions. Make sure to comment that stuff down below. If you're curious about my experience, I'm a diamond Swain main, and I have more than 1 million mastery points. I played him mid-top support and ADC, so I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of the champion, as well as I'm not the best on a micro level, a little bit older of a boomer. I don't really have that much time to play a massive amount of Swain games, but I've been able to climb to a really high level in the top, I think top 30 NA Swains, and that is just off game knowledge. So that's why I'm putting together these videos, to make sure that I can help out as many people as possible with this champion, because I think he is a great champion. So with all that out of the way, guys, let's get right into the tips. All right, and getting into the first concept with Swain's W is the ability to create a zoning W that will enable you to get a pick, particularly in lane. This is just a great way to set up if you're playing ADC Swain, if you're playing bot Swain, or if you're even playing something in the top or the mid. This is going to be the ideal scenario where you can really set up picks with your W. The thing that you want to be doing is you want to be throwing the W a little bit behind the target while running up at the target and closing distance. What this is going to do is it's going to make sure that the enemy is either going to get slowed by your W, you're going to be able to close distance and get a into E range on the enemy target, or that they are going to, maybe they're going to run a different way to dodge and not get hit by the W, but they are going to put you into the E range. This is going to be extremely important for enemy laners like Xerath, like Ezreal, like poke champions that are really looking to keep you at range and punish you from range. This is the most important concept. Obviously, when you are looking to throw out these zoning Ws and to enable your pick, when the enemy champion is putting themselves against a wall, this is an even better scenario than having them in the middle. So when they're against a wall, you can make sure that you are tilting it a little bit more to the right, because you do not want to be having your W anywhere near the wall that is dead space where people can't even move. So keeping this in mind, you always want to make sure that you are throwing your W in this spot. Now, when you are looking to grab these picks in lane, it is very important that you are not too far away. If you are looking for a zoning W and you throw it out from this amount of distance away, they can just run through it. They're going to get slowed, and you still aren't going to be able to land your E on the target. So wait and make sure that you are around this amount of distance where the W zone is going to have an effect, and you're going to be able to land an E on the target. This is a really important concept. The more that you use the W as a zoning tool to set up picks, the better you are going to get at it, and that will be the first tip that I am going to give you guys with Swain. All right, and the next thing that is going to be pretty important with Swain is that, particularly when you are playing with a laner or you are pushing out a lane consistently, is you want to be looking for W's as a scouting method to see where the enemy jungler is. It can give you really invaluable information, similar but not as strong as the Ashe E. Using your W to even maybe even look to steal some buffs, steal some jungle camps can be effective, but scouting out the enemy jungler can really enable a lot of things. If you are, say you just throw out a random W, maybe you're playing against a Lulu Ezreal down in the bot lane, you have very little threat. You don't want to be using, maybe you're not looking to get a pick at the time. You do not want to just have your W just sitting there when it is, when you're not using the full cooldown. So scouting out the enemy jungle can give invaluable information. Say you hit the jungler and they are on that big frog right there, the Krug. This is going to enable the top lane to take trades and the mid lane to take trades, because they know that where the jungler is really a great amount of information. So using your W as a scouting tool can be extremely effective. And this is also similar in the later game periods. Using your W to scout out common bush traps that people set up in late game can just be absolutely massive when you are playing Swain. And that is the second tip that I'm going to give out for Swain. All right, and getting into the next part of Swain, this is the W and how you are going to be adjusting it based on the enemy's movement speed as well as hitbox. Now, it's going to obviously be 10 times harder to hit a Kale that is speeding themselves up with W. The reason why I do Kale is because she has a really small hitbox as opposed to something like a Scion that is not really sped up at all, maybe doesn't even have boots. You're going to be able to hit a lot of W's. So the faster the target is, the more that you need to lead them to use this as a zoning effect. The absolute worst thing you can use, way you can use your W, is to not lead a target, not have a good understanding of their movement speed, and you throw out your W and they just run past it. Your W is a rather expensive ability at 70 at rank 1 and goes all the way up to 110, so you really want to make sure that you are using this ability to its full effect. So you always want to be looking to lead it based on the enemy target's movement speed. This is going to take a while. It's going to take a couple of games to get used to understanding the different breakpoints. It's extremely easy to hit ADCs without boots on, and maybe it's something like a Twitch, so even slower movement speed, as opposed to maybe something like a Jhin that just used his crit 4-shot and rushed Swifty boots. Is going to be extremely hard to hit them with the W, so you need to be looking to lead the target appropriately when you are throwing out your W, and that'll wrap up this tip. Okay, and the next part is utilizing your W inside of a combo. Now, the last thing you want to do when using your W is to override the slow that you would be getting your W with the root that is going to be coming out of your E. You are not maximizing the CC chain on the enemy target. If you played World of Warcraft at all, you have a really good understanding of how you want to chain together CCs and not override things, and really just put a slow on top of an already slow target, or an already rooted target, or an already stunned target. If you are looking to combo an enemy, you usually want to use it like this. So you throw out your E, you can throw out your W, and then as soon as the root ends, it pretty much the slow is starting. So that is going to be a very, very effective way to use your W. Make sure that you are using it in a way where your slow is going to linger after your root, so you can continue to close distance as well as to get into the ideal range for the massive amount of damage that you can throw out with your Q when you are at those ideal ranges. So again, make sure that you are using your 2.5 second slow after the root has been hit, or even after the glacial has been affected. The glacial augment really sets up for nice, super easy W's as well on targets, because they're slowed. It's going to be easier to hit them and punish them further with your W, and that will wrap up this tip. Okay, and this is going to be a very, very important thing that I see a lot of lower elo Swains doing that is a huge mistake. So when you are in team fights, Vision of the Empire can really provide so much for you in the team fights. Giving slows is so underrated, particularly with this very, very heavy slow when it is the max range. It goes from 25 all the way up to a 65% slow that lasts for 2.5 seconds. So it is a very, very impactful slow in fights. So what you want to be looking for inside of team fights on top of your W, if you are not just looking to pick out a particular target and using the combo that I just described in the previous tip, is you want to be waiting for the enemy team to engage. You want to be looking for that opportune moment where the enemies have hard committed onto the enemy champion, or onto your allied champions, and then you look to peel with your W. You do not want to be just throwing your W at the start of a team fight where everyone has their movement ability, they have their dashes, they're not committed into a fight, they're not going to get punished by your allies' auto attacks by just moving backwards. That is a poor timing with your W. You want to wait until the enemies have committed, the divers have committed, and you can get a lot of slows on enemy targets. It's going to be a lot easier to get multi-man W's on enemies when they are committed and they are looking to auto attack targets and they're not just looking to dodge. You can just have just a really basic example of this is, say this is a Lux and you're laning against him. If you just throw out a W, you have a very, very minimal chance to hit that target, particularly if they have boots or any kind of movement speed increase or any kind of mobility. But if an enemy target, say this is a Jax that is just jumping in on your ally ADC, they are going to take your W damage to continue autoing the target. It is very rare that an enemy diver is going to stop committing by the threat of your just a kind of a lower damage ability in your W, particularly when you're not maxing it first. They do not hold it as a really large threat, as well as if you have something. There are certain skins that the W is really hidden. As you can see here, with the green Tyrant skin, the W is kind of hard to see, particularly when there's a lot of chaos going on in the team fight. It can be very easy to get these multi-man Ws. So again, the biggest tip I can give you guys when team fighting and utilizing your W is waiting for the commitment and then punishing the enemies with slows, and then having your ultimate be able to drain more targets for longer because they are slowed by your W, and you just didn't throw it all nilly-willy out on the beginning of a team fight and everyone dodged it. And that will wrap up this tip. Alright, and this part of using the Swain W is just absolutely insanely important, because this is really when the make or break parts of the game goes on, and that is around objectives. Now, if you did not know, maxing your W increases the reveal duration to 8 seconds. If you are able to ward out the enemy jungler that is possibly looking to steal out, you're going to consistently get your ward swept, or maybe there's a pink ward. But if you hit a W on the enemy jungler, it is going to be massive, because your team is going to know where the jungler is. They're going to be able to punish them and poke them out before the steal. So whenever you are taking objectives, always look to use your W to reveal the enemy jungler, so you guys have a better understanding and you can secure the objective at a higher rate than you normally would if you did not have the enemy jungler revealed. This is particularly even more important with junglers like Zac and Kayn that are high mobility and consistently look for steals and can do it quite easily. Also things like Lee Sin, obviously, and Elise that have executes on target. So always look to get as much of the vision as you can with the W on the enemy junglers around these objectives, and you will see your win rates increase. I know it's a very small thing, but these are the times and these are the W usages that can really define a game and really carry a game if you have the vision on the enemy targets. And that will wrap up this tip. So this is a very common thing that happens it just happens all the time. Every single game there is going to be a 1v1 going on. Maybe you have a Talon or a jungler that likes to invade and they are consistently invading the enemy jungle. You're saving your W to get assists and to get extra access to resources by looking for these W picks is just going to be extremely invaluable. You are essentially like an artillery piece with this ability where you are able to provide support in so many different ways for your allies, slowing down a target and allowing your jungler to ensure that there is a 1v1, because hopefully if they're looking for it, they know that they can win it. This W can be hyper effective. Now, with some of the more utility builds that I have been talking about with you guys in some of my more recent videos, providing a Font of Life proc on an allied champion and a bit of damage and a slow can really be enough to turn the tides in a 1v1. So consistently looking for W procs from lane when you have an aggressive jungler can be just a great way to play out Swain. Essentially, when it is maxed, it is almost a absolute global ability. As you can see here, I can hit between the top tier 2 towers, I can hit there, I can hit just pretty much anywhere around the map when you have a max W. So this is actually one thing I wanted to talk about, is when it sometimes is better to max W over Q first in the early game if you know you are in a lane that you are not able to get too many kills in. If you're against a super safe lane, or maybe you're going against something like a barrier Corki with Doran's shield, I mean, why would you max your Q there when you can look to help your jungler out and help out your side lanes more? You're just not going to get much of a return from maxing your Q first, as opposed to being able to consistently proc Ws on the enemies down in the bot lane in those situations. So make sure that you are adjusting your max order of your abilities based on the different game and lane states that you are encountering, and that will wrap up this tip. Okay, this is going to be something a bit different. It is something that is a little bit smaller but can be so insanely impactful depending on the different states in the game. Now, people are going to be looking to push lanes in and back. That's just the common thing that everyone's looking to do right now, is they want to push the lane, their minions under your tower, and then get a good back timing and come back with more resources than you. So stopping enemy backs and throwing their timing off is really where W can shine quite heavily. So consistently looking to stop enemy backs with your W, particularly around dragon and Baron timings, can really be just a insanely impactful thing. So even if it is maybe you're just having a feeding bot lane like so many people end up having, and the enemy is looking to back after getting kills, just putting them behind maybe an extra like what 15 or 20 seconds, because they have to stop, they have to walk away a little bit, and then they're going to recall as the general strategy. You really need to be looking for as many of these stops as you can, because it's going to be consistently proccing. It's giving you more health with the Ravenous Flock, which is really nice. But again, looking to stop backs, particularly around dragon timings and big objectives incoming, is going to stop enemy power spikes with different items, as well as maybe they're going to be lower health at the target, at the objective, if they decide to stick around, or maybe a little bit less mana than they would like. So this is just a very hidden, strong ability to stop backs from pretty much anywhere around the map when this ability is max. So keep this in mind. It is a insanely powerful tool to put people in scenarios that they do not want to be in. And that will wrap up this tip. Now this is going to be my final tip. I'm probably going to be doing a part 2 to some of these masterclass videos, but this is going to be the final thing I want to talk about with the W, and that is his utilization with First Strike right now is really strong, because you're able to consistently proc the First Strike if you have a little bit of burn, or if you're running something like a Ludens. Getting those consistent First Strike procs. First Strike has about a 15-second cooldown when you're later in the game and you're at a high level, and you're able to just get that extra gold over and over and over again on a relatively low cooldown from a very long range in a very safe manner. I think Vision of the Empire W Max with First Strike can be an effective play style if you are just looking to farm out, scale out, and you know that you aren't able to really get any kills in lane. Vision of the Empire just synergizes so well with that rune. It is the same as it would with something like a Comet, or something like even getting Dark Harvest procs. That's the best feeling, or obviously getting kills can be very, very nice proccing with this ability. If you guys have any questions for me, it's going to wrap up all the tips I get. Please make sure to comment down below. If you enjoyed the video, if I helped you out, please make sure to subscribe. We're almost at 500 subscribers, which is really cool for this new channel. And as always, guys, take it easy.